change the mood up a little bit. We will be having a very special speaker. She has struggled a lot in her life to get away from the label of Mark Zuckerberg's sister. Indeed, Randi Zuckerberg is an entrepreneur, investor, best-selling author, and Emmy-nominated tech media personality. She's the founder and CEO of Zuckerberg Media with the mission of supporting current and future entrepreneurs through investment, mentorship, and media, especially starting off with her passion to help women in the industry. Prior to founding her own company, Randi was an early employee at Facebook, where she's best known for creating Facebook Live, now used by more than 1 billion people around the world. A Harvard graduate, Randi hosts a weekly business talk radio show called Dot Complicated on Sirius XM and is also the author of 4 books, 2 best-selling business books, namely Dot Complicated and Pick 3, as well as 2 children's books since she became a mom, Dot, which is also currently an award-winning preschool television series on Universal Kids and Hulu, as well as the series called Missy President. Randi travels the world, speaks about technology, entrepreneurship, her time in Silicon Valley, and shockingly, how to unplug. When she's not Facebooking or actual written word booking, she can be found at the theater as a 2-time Tony Award-winning Broadway producer of Hadestown and Oklahoma. Oklahoma is one of my favorites. Very, very pleased to have you with us, Randi. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Anita. Good morning to everyone in Sarawak. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Randi Zuckerberg. I'm so thrilled to be here to talk about how we can thrive in this new normal. And of course, I'm very excited and happy to be part of IDECS 2020, even from across the world. Now, I want to start with a huge thank you to several people and organizations, the Right Honorable Chief Minister of Sarawak, the Deputy State Secretary, Sarawak Multimedia Authority, and of course, the incredible organizing committee from Scope. Thank you to everyone who made this event possible. Now, I also want to say a huge hello to everyone who's in the hall today. How exciting to actually be there in person. And another equally big hello to everyone who's dialing in from all across the region. While I so wish that I could be there in person with all of you, I think it's truly wonderful how technology allows us to all be together at this event from across the world. Now, just a little taste of being there with you. I know that the bird, the official bird, is the hornbill. So I've tried to wear the closest earrings and accessories that I could to something with a hornbill on it, so I could feel like I'm there with you, representing the culture and the spirit. Now, I wanted to tell you a few things about me because I'm sure that you're all familiar with someone else with the last name Zuckerberg, and you're probably sitting there having a few feelings right now. Maybe you're disappointed. You wish that it was the other Zuckerberg that was talking to you instead of me. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself so that maybe by the time we're done today, you can forget that that other Zuckerberg even existed at all. Here are a few things about me. I graduated from Harvard University. I know that's so obnoxious. Why would I start off my speech bragging about going to Harvard? Well, that other Zuckerberg I just mentioned did not graduate from Harvard. So that is pretty much the only score one that I have in life. So of course I have to lead with it. I wanted to show you a picture of my family. Mostly because there's a good chance that someone from this photograph will walk across the back of my keynote while I'm talking to you today. So now at least you can recognize the people that might be crossing through the screen. And I put the Zoom logo on here because the other day I was thinking about all of our careers right now, and I felt like maybe I should change my professional title on my business cards to professional video conferencer. I mean, it's really surprising how many things in life can be done over video conference, from doctor's appointments to shows to business meetings. And I think we've really all learned a lot about remote work. That's something that I'm going to talk about a lot later. And bonus is that I'm wearing pajamas right now. Just kidding, I'm not. I dressed up for everyone, but maybe some of you who are watching are wearing pajamas, so that's a definite benefit to virtual events. I want to take you back to the early days of my career and of the start of Facebook, because I know that's something that's very interesting and exciting to everyone and has a lot of lessons and similarities to the time that we're in right now, actually. When I went to Harvard, something that you definitely don't know about me is that I loved music. I actually wanted to be an actress and a singer. And I had done a lot of opera and music my whole childhood. It was my dream, my whole life, to sing on Broadway in New York City. But my first week at Harvard, I got flat out rejected from the music major. That's it. So I had to do my first entrepreneurial pivot at age 18 years old and find something else to study and explore for my career. But luckily, around that time, I found advertising, marketing. I loved it so much. I took an introduction to psychology and business course. I fell in love. And so after I graduated, I moved to New York City and worked for a huge marketing agency called Ogilvy and Mather. And something interesting happened to me my first day on the job. There were about 40 of us who all started at the agency at the same time. Well, 39 of my colleagues got staffed on glamorous campaigns with celebrities, big world events, you know, the kind of things that you see on TV and in movies that marketing agencies work on. Not me. I got staffed on this brand new little startup team inside the agency called digital marketing. And I was angry. I did not want to be on this dead-end little team. I didn't even know what's digital marketing anyway. It sounded like a dead-end job. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be with all of the celebrities. But it turned out to be a huge blessing in disguise, because 2 years later, all of my other friends and colleagues who started at the same time were still in entry-level positions getting coffee, and I was running one of the fastest growing teams inside the company, and suddenly everyone wanted expertise in digital marketing. One of those people who wanted expertise in digital marketing was my brother. He started calling, texting, emailing me saying, "Hey Randy, I started this thing called thefacebook.com, and I could really use some advice on digital marketing." Let me translate that for anyone who's listening who has not been part of a family business before. When he said, I could really use someone who knows digital marketing, what he meant was, I need someone who will work for free. Those of you who've been involved in a family business know what I'm talking about. So I figured, you know what? I'll help my brother out for a few days. I'll go out to California, see what he's working on, and then I'll go right back to my life in New York City, because I loved it in New York City. I got on a plane out to California, just, you know, help my brother out for a few days. And I had never been to California before. So in my mind, I thought I was going to step off the plane into this world of palm trees and glamour and celebrity. But no, what I found was the least glamorous place I'd ever been to. It was so messy. This house, these guys were coding around the clock. I think they consumed only Red Bull for 4 straight days. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? What is going on here? But I have to admit that there was something so exciting about the passion that these guys had for what they were building. Even in the middle of the night in this messy house, you could tell that these guys truly believed that they might change the world. And it was so exciting. I'd never felt anything like that before in a corporate setting. So I told you that I had gone out there thinking I would be in California for 2 days to help my brother. Well, 10 years later, I was still in California. And it was only just a few years ago that I actually made it back to New York City. Now, you might think, you know, wow, we always had it so easy at Facebook. It was always this big company with tons of money, but every company starts somewhere. When I started at Facebook, we were only about 12 people in this tiny little office above a Chinese restaurant in Palo Alto, California. Now, when I left the company 10 years later, we had tens of thousands of employees in offices around the world, but I still remember that first year. I was running marketing, and my entire marketing budget for a year was one box of t-shirts. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling like, I don't have money, I don't have resources, how can I market my business? Just picture me sitting there in that little office the first year of Facebook with one box of t-shirts, and that's all I had to market our company for a year. One thing that we did that was very effective, though, was we did these things called hackathons. And in these hackathons, we would invite people from inside the company and different companies in Silicon Valley to all come together and brainstorm. That's a great thing to do when you are short of resources, because you can start to get ideas from smart people all over the industry and all over the region. We would have these hackathons every few months, and usually they were all-night hackathons. So they would start right after work ended, and you would work on a project all night long. If you were still standing the next morning, you got up and presented it to everyone. The only rule was that you were not allowed to work on anything that you did during the day in your job. So you couldn't just sit at the hackathon and answer emails or make presentations for clients. No, this was 12 hours to work on something totally wild and random that you would never give yourself permission to work on in your normal life. Now, maybe you're sitting there thinking, everyone in Silicon Valley are geniuses. These ideas must have been so great, but most of the ideas were some of the silliest, dumbest things that you've ever seen. One in particular that really stands out to me is this one engineer hooked up a trampoline to people's phones. So you would jump on the trampoline, and that would become your lock and unlock screen on your phone, and you had to recreate an identical jump to get back into your phone. Do you have any idea how long it takes to recreate an identical jump on a trampoline? People would jump for hours and still be locked out of their phone. So I think that was probably the worst invention that I ever saw. But something incredible happens when people are doing crazy things like that. Because when the guy next to you is hooking up a trampoline to an iPhone, there is nothing you could do to top it. So you might as well just bring your wildest, craziest ideas to the table. It's amazing, I think, in our real lives, we are so afraid of bringing big ideas to the table. We are afraid that other people will tell us that we're silly, that we'll get rejected. We're very afraid of failure, especially in many of our careers. And so we don't bring our big, bold ideas to the table. These hackathons became one of the only places where many of us felt free to bring big thoughts and try them out. And what ends up happening when you free people to do that is that people come up with good ideas sometimes, good ideas that they never would have come up with or raised in a general day-to-day life. Now, I have a few hackathon projects I'm pretty proud of. I wanted to share two of them with you today. The first is that I started an employee rock band. Inside of Facebook, we played all 80s rock music. I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there like, wait a minute, we've been listening to Randi's keynote and she's going to talk about an 80s rock band. I am not impressed by that. You should not be impressed by that. That's the correct response. We were a terrible band, and you shouldn't be impressed. But maybe you'll be a little more excited about my next hackathon project. You see, around the time the iPhone came out, I started to get really interested in the fact that every single one of us was now walking around the world as our own media company. Every single one of you listening, you are your own movie studio. You are your own radio network. You are your own television show. That was really exciting to me. And I thought, how could Facebook play a role in that? So at one of these hackathons, I took over this tiny little broom closet and I started just interviewing people at the hackathon and going live. I called it Facebook Live with Randi Zuckerberg. I thought this is going to be huge. 2 people watched, my mom and dad. That's it. I got so bummed out that no one was watching except my parents that I turned off Facebook Live and I went home for the night. I did not even stay up till the end of the hackathon to present my idea. And I thought, Facebook Live is dead. Except maybe a few of you who are listening to this have used Facebook Live before. You know it's not dead. So here's what happened next. A few weeks later, I got a call out of the blue from pop star Katy Perry and her team saying, Randy, we saw that Facebook is launching a new kind of television show, and we want Katy Perry to go on it to announce her world tour. And I thought, okay, here's where I should apologize and say that it's not a real show, it's just a silly hackathon project. But then I thought to myself a minute, wait a minute, Randy, what would your male colleagues do? Your male colleagues would want to meet Katy Perry. They would make it happen. They would find a way. So instead of apologizing, what I said was, yes, Facebook Live is a very reputable television show, and that is definitely where you should launch Katy Perry's world tour. So in January of 2011, Katy Perry came to Facebook for the first ever Facebook Live broadcast. It was a huge hit. We had millions of people who tuned in from across the world. Her tour sold out in minutes. We couldn't just go live from our phones like you can do today. Streaming bandwidth wasn't that way back in 2011. So we had giant satellite trucks that were parked outside the Facebook office in order to allow us to stream to that number of people. But it was a huge success. And from then on, so many celebrities, politicians, world leaders all wanted to come through the Facebook office and do their own Facebook Live broadcast. Now, Facebook Live was kind of my little side hustle on the side of running marketing at Facebook. So I had this full-time job running marketing, and then I also was developing Facebook Live, hosting all the interviews, doing everything. That's startup life. You do everything. Sometimes I would even throw a bone to a small little startup, just to, give them a little publicity through Facebook Live. I had these guys on my show and I said to them, hey, welcome to Facebook Live with Randi Zuckerberg. What's the name of your startup? Twitter. Good luck with that. Well, they did pretty well, so good job, guys. But my favorite memory of my time working on Facebook Live is about 4 months into past that hackathon, the broom closet, I got a call that the President of the United States, President Obama at the time, wanted to use Facebook Live to do a town hall to all of America. Like I said, this was only 4 months after I first had the idea at the hackathon, and 4 months later, the president was using Facebook Live on a regular basis. I actually got nominated for a major television award for that broadcast, but then I lost. So I guess I have to say it's an honor to be nominated. But it got even better than that, because just a few years ago, Facebook Live launched to all of you and to everyone around the world. Facebook Live is now available to more than 2 billion people around the world. Now, the reason I say that is because when I got on that plane out to Silicon Valley to help my brother, I didn't think of myself as a creator, as an inventor, as an entrepreneur. I never would have used those words to describe myself. I just thought, I'm a marketer. I'm the person behind the scenes helping brilliant people get their ideas out there. But there's something special about putting yourself in a situation where you're a little bit uncomfortable, where you can get out of your fear of failure and put big ideas out there. And what I learned from that experience is that every single one of us that's tuning in today has an idea in our mind that 2 billion people could be using. We just have to sometimes get out of our own way and make sure that we can put our big ideas out there. So here I was, I had just created Facebook Live. I was meeting these celebrities, traveling the world. I had the President of the United States on speed dial. So what did I do? I quit my job. I know, now you're sitting there thinking for sure you're listening to a crazy person on the other end of this keynote, but hear me out for a second. Why would I do that? Why would I walk away from one of the greatest companies and the greatest opportunities? The answer is, It's complicated. See, I loved what I was doing at Facebook and in Silicon Valley, but I had a lot of complicated feelings about the tech industry. One of the things that I felt most complicated about was the fact that for 10 years, I was the only woman in every single room that I was in. And I thought, why is this the case? The tech industry, it's so exciting, it's cutting edge, it's changing the world. Why are there no women and no diversity in this industry? That was something that really hung heavy on my heart that I wanted to do something about. I knew I wanted to help women to get further in business. And I knew that I probably couldn't do it from inside one company. So sadly, even though I loved my time at Facebook, I left to start my own business, Zuckerberg Media, with the hope of getting more women into technology and business. But I had to do some research because I didn't know exactly where and why we lose women around the world in these fields. So I started to do all this research, and I have to tell you, my research shocked me. What I learned is that the first gap where we lose women in these careers is at 8 years old. 8 and 9-year-old girls start to say things like, oh, I'm not good at math, or that's for boys. And so I actually ended up dividing my company into 2 parts. Half of our company works on children's media and entertainment in order to develop television shows, books, products for girls to get them excited about technology and coding from a young age. And the other half of my company does career coaching and advice for women who are starting companies, whether that's through mentorship, investing, because for me, it's very important to address both of those gaps where we're really losing women in these industries. But there was a personal thing that was happening in my life that also contributed to my decision to step away from Facebook. And that was that I became a mom. And I know that that's a complicated moment in a lot of career women's lives where you have to start thinking about the balance between focusing on your career and your children. Working at a startup like Facebook, I was working around the clock. And I was working so much. I was working, 24 hours a day. It's not sustainable to have children and be working in that kind of climate. And I'm sure many of you who are working at tech companies or your own businesses can relate to that. And it's hard because that's also contributes to why we lose so many women at these fast-paced startups. Now, I have 2 sons who are absolutely the loves of my life, but something was missing. Here I was focusing on women and girls and, then coming home to my boys. And I have to say, I'm so happy that 1 year ago, I had a baby girl. So it was really a special moment for me doing all this work with women and children to actually have a little girl of my own. But this pandemic has brought a lot of new challenges for parents all over the world. There was a moment in the spring where I think hundreds of millions of children were all out of school because schools were closed down around the world. Here's a picture of me wearing a t-shirt that says, I'm not talking to myself, I'm having a parent-teacher conference. And I always get a good laugh when I look at this picture because if you asked me a year ago to predict what the hardest things would be about being in a global pandemic, I probably would not have said teaching homeschool math to my children would be the most challenging thing about a global pandemic. But here we are, and many of us have had to take on, multiple jobs inside the home that we're not paid for. In some point, it's taught us a lot more resilience. It's taught us to have more empathy with our colleagues and coworkers. But on the other hand, it is also contributing to many more women around the world dropping out of the workforce because traditionally, if someone has to focus a little more on the children and homeschool and things like that, and traditionally in most households, it's the woman. And I fear that maybe we're not going to see the immediate results of that this year, but we'll see that 5-10 years from now when there are fewer women going up the ranks in executive positions. So If you're a parent out there struggling in this world, listening to this keynote, hang in there. We're all in this boat together, and both worlds, professional world and your family world, both need you very much right now. I want to take you back 1 year in my life, because 1 year ago was one of the greatest professional days of my entire life. Now, I mentioned to you that I love theater. I started, after I left Facebook, as a side hustle a little bit, I started producing Broadway theater. And my side hustle kind of grew and grew and grew into a bigger part of my professional life. Last year, I was honored at the Tony Awards, which is one of the biggest award shows for theater. I won 2 Tony Awards for excellence in producing theater. It was an incredible moment for me. My parents were there. They have known my whole life how much theater means to me. And I decided after that date, I was like, I'm going to double down on live entertainment. This is my year. I actually went out, I raised a multi-million-dollar fund to invest in live theatrical entertainment around the world. And then we all know what happened in March 2020, boom, canceled. The entire industry shut down. Here I was with this fund with 7 Broadway shows I was producing, and the entire theater industry ground to a close. That was a very challenging moment for me, but I felt lucky that I had experiences like that in my life that I could rely on, because all around me, people were panicking. But I thought, okay, this is another moment of getting uncomfortable and resilient and changing the industry you're in. I'm reminded of a quote by Winston Churchill that I love, that says, never let a good crisis go to waste. What do we mean by this? What do we mean by never let a good crisis go to waste? Well, sometimes it is in these very moments of crisis that the biggest innovation happens, because we are forced to get out of our comfort zone and try new things that we maybe never would have tried if we were just trucking along in a comfortable way. Remember this? When the iPhone came out, I don't know, maybe some of you do, some of you don't, but I remember it very clearly, because the new iPhone was, I think, that day that the iPhone launched was one of the most similar experiences that I had in my career to what's happening now. We all went to bed in Silicon Valley one night in June 2007 with almost all of our customers using our products on desktop and laptop computers. We woke up the next day to a new world where almost half of our customers were now on mobile devices. That's how quickly the iPhone changed the world and changed customer behavior. And we were all left scrambling in Silicon Valley. Half the tech companies said, no, this is just a fad. We're not going to change the way we do things. We're just going to ride it out and kind of double down on what we're doing and wait for the iPhone to go away. But we were in the other half of companies that said, no, we think consumer behavior has changed for good. So we need to completely rethink our business model from scratch, retrain our engineers, and redo our company for a mobile world. It was difficult, it was challenging. We had to fight some of our investors who didn't want us to give up on some of our money-making potential right now to change our company, but we were a better company for it. We were a better company for getting uncomfortable and for realizing that consumer behavior had changed, even though we took a hit to our bottom line. The companies that thought it was just a fad, well, none of them are in business anymore. So I think right now is a moment to really reflect on how consumer behavior is changing for good and think about how we need to change our businesses and our lives in order to accommodate that. Here are a few of my favorite examples of businesses that took an uncomfortable pivot. Michael Mina is an Egyptian chef. He has won several Michelin stars. That's the highest honor that you can win as a chef. And what that means is that a Michelin star chef obsesses over every detail of the dining experience, from the scent and aroma to the types of china that you dine on. And well, in a pandemic, people aren't really sitting in a Michelin star restaurant. So Michael Mina had to kind of re-envision overnight what casual fast food looked like coming from his restaurant, which is not something that a lot of Michelin star chefs are prepared to get out of their way of their own ego and do that. A lot of restaurants actually turned into grocery stores overnight. They saw that people were struggling to find different products and food products in stores, and so they turned into grocery stores for local communities. Here's a bar in Maryland in the US that found a very creative solution to social distancing by putting each person inside their own bumper table in order to ensure that people could not get close enough to one another to spread the virus. Schools all around the world have thought of different innovative ways of keeping children safe indoors, especially young children who have challenges wearing masks and keeping distancing. Religious services all over the world have gotten very creative with drive-through religious services where you drive up in your car to receive a prayer, or services in the middle of giant parking lots. It's been really exciting and innovative to see what different groups have done around the world. But my favorite pivot during this time comes from a small goat farm in California. That's right, you heard that correctly, a goat farm. This adorable goat farm in California found themselves on the brink of going out of business. They were very reliant on schools paying to come and do field trips, on visitors coming and buying tickets, and suddenly no one was coming. And they thought, how are we going to keep our doors open and stay in business? But they thought, okay, well, everyone is doing these Zoom and web conferences right now. What if we made our goats available to join corporate video meetings? So they launched a service called Goat to Meeting, where you could actually book a goat, a llama, a pig to come into your corporate video conference for 10 minutes and be there. I have to say, I actually hired one of their llamas, Dalai Lama, to come join a video conference. And I think it was the most fun that we've ever had in a kind of a business video conference. Everyone was taking screenshots and smiling and asking questions. The farm was actually so successful with this initiative, they had to recruit 140 other farms across the United States to make their animals available also. And even with that many farms, there was still a 1-month waiting list to get an animal into your Zoom. So if a goat farm in California can pivot and make the most of this crisis, surely all of us sitting here can do the same. So I think it's time to acknowledge that consumer behavior has changed. It's time to get uncomfortable, to try new things, to experiment with ideas that maybe we never would have done before. Now, I've seen so much change in my career. During my time at Facebook, I witnessed every single industry changing around us. I witnessed the shift from desktop to mobile computing, as I mentioned. I witnessed a change of celebrities speaking directly to their audiences for the first time through things like Facebook Live. I witnessed information flowing faster and farther than ever before. I mean, we're talking massive shifts across every single industry. Times like this are uncomfortable, but they're also a gift. They do not come often when we're forced to try new things. And so why don't we have the mindset of thinking about where are the opportunities in all of this? Now, I've outlined a few opportunities that I wanted to share with you today. There are so many more besides the 5 that I'm going to share with you, but this is just to hopefully spark some thoughts and enthusiasm. There is a massive opportunity with e-commerce right now. The pandemic didn't stop us from shopping. It just stopped us from shopping in person. So all of that money, all of that spending and shopping moved online. Now, I've actually seen that during this lockdown period, there was such a major spike in e-commerce that it actually accelerated e-commerce growth 5 years ahead of all the predictions of where e-commerce would have grown. People are ordering now everything There are huge categories that are exploding. People have to order at-home office supplies because they're working remotely. They're ordering fitness equipment if they can't go to gyms, cooking devices, they're cooking more at home, medical supplies, books and toys for their children, you name it, people are buying it online. So what does this mean? It means that it's time for you to boost up your e-commerce profile and to try new interesting ways of connecting with customers online. On this slide, you'll see a picture of me trying on earrings, but those earrings weren't actually on me. I was doing it through augmented reality. It was a virtual earring try-on from a company called Accessory Junkie, where you could go on their website and try on earrings from designers all over the world through AR. And that was one of the most exciting things that I had seen in e-commerce and shopping. And it was such an engaging way to find a new brand. Even luxury, people were asking, is luxury dead? You know, with everyone working from home and nowhere to go, no one's dressing up, is luxury shopping dead? Actually, even luxury commerce remained high and remained a high growth category. It's just that companies had to pivot what they were doing. I mean, who would have thought that the face mask would be the new it fashion accessory for 2020? But you know, now there are millions of stores selling designer face masks across the world in different ways. I think another huge opportunity is in logistics and supply chain, moving these purchases. Now, we just talked about the rise of e-commerce, but one thing that we have not talked about enough is how those purchases get to us. And this is what broke down during the pandemic. There was so much breakdown of the supply chain, from shipping and logistics. We had, I think it really highlighted the fact that so many industries rely on supply from one foreign country, and that's it. They put all their eggs in one factory in another country, and when borders close and a pandemic happens, you just can't get your product. So we're starting to see the need to diversify, to find more local production, and for logistics to catch up to that. In the United States, we had people starving, but we had trucks full of food that was just wasting because there was a shortage of truck drivers to drive them. This is a huge opportunity right now, using technology to get into logistics, supply chain, and help make sure that this is better and that we're better prepared for future global crises. But it's not just moving purchases. I think we've also seen through this pandemic that there is a huge opportunity in moving data. Now, during the lockdown, governments and global health organizations like the World Health Organization teamed up with big tech companies all over the world to use data for important things like contact tracing, to detect potential carriers of COVID, to look at hotspots around the world. And we started to see really interesting uses of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain to help use all of this data in a way that was good for public health and safety. Data has also been used to track supplies, personal protective equipment that's had to move around the world. It's hard sometimes to verify the legitimacy of suppliers when you're across the world from them and keep the supply chain moving. But there are huge opportunities right now if you're working in AI, machine learning, big data, to analyze data around healthcare trends and different trends in this new normal. Blockchain continues to grow in importance as people, they want to make health data available, but they don't necessarily want governments to be tracking and tracing every activity. So I'm excited to see what all of you are going to be doing and thinking about with this new focus on data. There's also a huge opportunity in moving people around. People are desperate to start traveling again. They've been locked down for months. They want to get out and move, but it won't look the same. We have to understand that. There has to be a renewed focus on health and safety over saving time and convenience. So public transportation is going to look different. Leisure travel is going to look different. In the United States, we saw a huge boom in travel, but it was outdoor travel, camping, road trips, RV rentals and camper vans, local travel became much more popular. We need to rethink what the business trips of the future will look like. I fear that the one-day business trip might be something that's a thing of the past, and conferences like this will be hybrid for a long time, which, you know, of course you really miss something when you're not there in person, but it also gives the opportunity to connect with thousands more people who maybe never would have had the chance to travel in the first place. I think the final opportunity that I wanted to discuss with you today, but is by far not the last opportunity that's out there, is the fact that so much of our lives are now remote. So there are huge opportunities in developments to improve remote life and work in this new world where the future of work is hybrid. I want to share a slightly funny, sad story. I have pictures here of myself giving keynotes from around the world from my living room. You know, that's fun, a little sad because I wish I was with you. The other photo is of my husband, who actually has worked remotely for about 4 years now. And when he first took his remote job, it was with a company with 1,000 people, and everyone was working from home. There was no headquarters. And we would tell people that, and they would be like, really? They'd be shocked. How could you do that? How could you have a company with 1,000 people with everyone working remotely? And actually, in February of 2020, he left that job and joined a new company because he missed being in an office with other people. He was excited to go back into an office and have colleagues. And then boom, the pandemic hit and he was back at home again. And so now he's a bit of an expert in remote work. And it's kind of funny and sad that he left that company to be in an office. And now here he is back running a company from across screens. But there are huge opportunities for all of us right now to think about how we help bring employees together and keep them motivated in a remote culture. And it's not just work. So many major life events are happening online. People are getting married through video conference. They're having birthdays, big conferences like this. There are huge opportunities for all of us to think through what all of these events in our lives will look like for the years to come. My final message to you today, though, is one about balance, about unplugging, about taking care of yourself. This is a very stressful time that we're all living through right now. And I want to let you know that it's okay during these crazy times to give yourself permission to not be as hyper productive as you usually are. In fact, this time, consider it like a gift to dig deep and really think about what's important to you, what you want to prioritize in life. Now, I've been prioritizing my time for many years. And in fact, I wrote a book about it because people have always asked me, you know, Randi, with 3 children and a busy career and travel, how do you balance it all? And the answer is that I don't. Nobody does. I actually don't believe in work-life balance. What I believe in is being well lopsided. I think in any phase or moment of your life, you need to pick a few things to be focused on and be okay letting the other things go. You can't do everything every day or you're going to burn out. So I have a philosophy called Pick 3, and it goes like this: work, sleep, family, friends, fitness. Pick 3. You cannot do all 5 of those things every day and expect to do them well. Now, you can change up the 3 that you're doing each day. You don't have to pick 3 and be stuck with them forever. But if you give yourself permission to say, you know what, this is a challenging time in the world, in our lives, I am going to just focus on 3 things and do them really well, and I'm not going to feel guilty or feel bad about the things I'm not doing, I think what you'll find is you'll be a lot happier, you'll be productive, and you'll actually be able to achieve excellence in the few things you're doing. Now, I guarantee if you sit there and you think, what are the moments in your life that you are most proud of, professionally or personally? I guarantee to you that those moments are not ones where you are well balanced. The moments of true pride and excellence comes when we allow ourselves to focus on a few areas of our life and go all in. And right now, in this new normal, this is one of those all-in times. Maybe you need to be all in on your family. Maybe you need to be all in on a new business. Maybe you need to be all in pivoting an existing business to survive. Maybe you need to be all in on your health right now, or a loved one's health. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to adopt that pick 3 lifestyle. It's been a huge pleasure being with all of you today. Again, I so wish that I was there in person in the hall, but I'm so grateful to technology and to the incredible team at Scope for allowing me to participate in IDECS 2020 from across the world. Please feel free to contact me. I'm on social media at Randi Zuckerberg. I love seeing your messages. I'm also available. I do a lot of advising and mentorship for startups around the world, business coaching. I like to say that I'm a professional mom to entrepreneurs around the world. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing all the incredible things you're going to do, and I hope you have a wonderful time at the rest of the conference.